Hello and welcome to the first Naginata video on the Martial Miscellany channel. Naginata is a martial art named for the weapon. Now, simply put, a modern Naginata is a 6-foot staff with a 2-foot, quote-unquote, sword on the end of it. It's based off an old Japanese samurai weapon, which, translated to English, we usually call a pole arm. It is a long-distance weapon. It is not quite a spear because it is not so much a stabbing weapon as a cutting weapon. The modern martial art is divided into two forms of practice. One form is choreographed sets of movements that are executed as precisely as possible with the best economy of movement so that you are performing accurate, good strikes. However, you're not ever actually hitting the person. The other is a competition style, very similar to kendo. We wear similar thick metal, lacquered bamboo, and leather armor, and we hit precise target areas. We'll cover the target areas in our next video. For this video, we'll be talking about the 5 basic stances that are used in Naginata. Now, there's going to be a lot of Japanese thrown at you. I'm going to try to define them, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to be repeating them every time. Instead, I'm going to try to teach it to you the first time around and then use it from then on. Starting with the most common stance, we have Chudan. To go into Chudan, we'll usually start from attention, the Naginata at our right hip, and we will do a proper bow from the hip, making sure to keep eye contact with our opponent. To switch into Chudan, the middle en garde, we reach across our body with our left hand and step out with our left foot, blade forward, just above the waist with the tip. From the side view, you can see, for the most part, you let Chudan hang down. However, your backhand will be over your thigh. From your backhand to the end of the Naginata, there should be the space of one forearm and one fist. The front hand will grip higher up on the stick, away from your body, enough to keep the blade at the proper height. Here we see a mochikae. Mochikae means a changing of how it is carried, or a change of grip. We use mochikae to switch directly from one side of the stance to the other side of the stance. Every stance has to be practiced, following the same rules for the grip, with both the right foot forward and the left foot forward. For almost everything you will do in Naginata, you will start from attention to left foot forward Chudan. The second stance we'll cover is called Hasso. The important points are that the lower hand on the stick section of the Naginata, or the ebu, will be at your hip. The higher hand will be next to your ear, but pulled straight back, almost as though you were pulling the string on a bow and arrow. Hasso is a very offensive stance. It doesn't have very much in the way of defensive capabilities. Most people will switch into Hasso and then immediately strike, usually to the head or the shin. Here we have right Hasso. Again, the bottom hand stays close to the hip, touching the hip with the wrist. The top hand pulls back next to the ear. Next we have Gedan. Gedan is a very defensive stance, and it is very useful for going from defense to a quick attack. Gedan is very simple in that we start in Chudan, and our backhand simply pulls up next to our ear. To switch back to Chudan, or back into an attack, we simply lower the arm. Next on the list of stances is Waki. Waki is a very simple stance to get into. How you use it may involve some more advanced skills. You turn the Naginata over and let it hang, this time with the blade section, or the habu, behind you, relative to you facing your opponent. When you hold the Naginata in Waki, the blade is pointed towards the side to facilitate a quick strike to the stomach area. Finally, we have Jodan, the high guard. For Jodan, you'll take the Naginata up above your head. You're trying to keep it over the center line of your skull, and the blade end, the habu, lifted slightly higher than the ebu. This is again another very offensive stance. There are some practical defensive points to it, but they're not used quite as much in the competition form anymore. Finally, we will naore. We will come back to attention. Pull the left foot back and pull the Naginata back, gently touching the end of it to the ground. Once the Naginata has been placed on the ground, put your hand at your side and bow, again keeping eye contact with your opponent.